Hey, everybody, welcome to Liberty Warrior Nation. It is good to see you guys tonight. It is Monday, March 2nd, 2026. It is going to be a action-packed show tonight. We've got everything going on that we're going to talk about that is going on in the world, including Iran, Israel, the U.S., UK, Pakistan, Afghanistan, WW3. Has that started yet? We've got the Clintons and their depositions came out in full late this afternoon, so we're going to cover a bit of that towards the end of the show. But I do have the one, the only Jeff B backstage waiting to come up to the forefront. Also, I got a couple announcements to make to you guys. First of all, if you can share and subscribe to the channel, share it out, like it, subscribe, that would be really helpful to us. We've got good news that we just became monetized, so we are now allowed to get super chats on YouTube. That is a good thing. We're thankful for that. I want to give you an update on LW. He is heading out of town late tonight, East Coast, to be able to work and do some more work. So he is going to try to join us on the phone like he did last time. But tonight and tomorrow, if we do a show tomorrow, he's not going to be able to join us. But he will as much as possible from work. Also, an update on Mike's mom. She did have one day being at home, relaxed, but now she is back in a different facility. She had something else come up. So LW asked if you could please keep her, his father, his aunt, and the entire family, brothers, and him in prayers. They need strength. They need protection. They need healing. They need guidance. They need wisdom and all the stuff that only God can provide. So if you guys could pray for them, they'd really appreciate it. Pray for his sweet mom, Shirley. I know she'll appreciate it as well. Also, as we cover the show tonight and we go through all these different places, I want to know what you guys think, and Jeff B does too. I want to know if you think this is a good idea, this whole Iranian war. Not that we can do much about it now, but it's interesting to find what your thoughts are. There are so many different opinions out there. There's so many people that are upset. Yet the Iranian people, ironically, are happy. There's a lot of Iranian people that are happy for the freedom that is coming and forthcoming. But interestingly enough, there's a lot of Americans that are not happy. So that is kind of a backwards thing. But we're going to talk all that in detail. We're going to talk about the latest that is going on, because there are plenty more of attacks that are going on. Israel is attacking again, and Iran's attacking. Iran's going into Beirut with missiles and stuff, Lebanon, all that. There's 12 different locations that are recommended to be evacuated in Lebanon by the Israeli military because of the new strikes and because of the continuation. So long story short, this isn't going to end anytime soon. So let me play the intro, and then I'm going to come back with the one, the only Jeff B, and we're going to get this started. Hang on. Hey, Jeff B, good to have you. How are you doing tonight?
Yeah, haven't been sleeping much, but it is what it is. I guess you sleep when they put you in a box.
Right? No kidding. That's the way it's been for me, too. It's like if I go to sleep for a couple hours, I'll wake up and I check the internet. It's insane. But, there's just a lot going on, like there always is. But I know one thing, this sure is heating up. And President Trump said, he expects this to last 4 or 5 weeks, maybe even longer. He also threatened and warned of big waves of attacks on Iran. He said they're imminent. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot going on tonight there. So I think the rounds have begun that he's talking about. What say you?
Well, they just attacked our embassy in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And Trump just put a message out that they are going to find out soon enough what the retaliation will be for the attack on our embassies, because they have attacked them in Doha, Bahrain. We've had a total of 6 killed in Bahrain due to the ballistic missile. And I was speaking to somebody earlier today, and they said they seen some V2s flying over their house heading towards the Middle East. So I think probably within the next 8-9 hours, we're going to see a lot of big booms. And, all the Middle Eastern countries are now, basically coming together, supporting the U.S. and supporting Israel in this, because it's going to get ugly. We took out everybody knows we took out the Ayatollah. Well, they just took out his replacement. So I'm sure that job application line is going to be short.
Well, I heard too that I think it was the president said it, that basically the one that they're going to put in charge is going to be somebody they don't have their eyes on and don't really know, because they took so many out the first go around. He expected it to take a lot longer, and they took 40 some leaders out and at the breakfast, it was brilliant that our intel actually hit during the day, because the Ayatollah and these leaders were having breakfast during the day, and they got intel on that, and that's why they went in when they did, because they weren't going to go in then, and that was a brilliant move. I agree with you on it's a shakeup all across the Middle East, as well as the United Kingdom. Their leader Starmer said he's going to allow the U.S. access to military bases for defensive strikes in Iran there against their missile sites, because he says they could be used to attack the UK. And then shortly after that, if you heard this, Jeff, hours after that announcement, they did strike with an Iranian drone the British airborne facility in Cyprus.
Yeah. And, Starmer's been waffling back and forth, because he's got a huge problem in this country. The crown, the prime minister, whoever, let all these fundamentalists into their country. And, London is probably going to feel the wrath of that. And, the British people are in for a surprise. It's almost like, this prime minister is kind of like Neville Chamberlain, when Churchill was out there screaming about Adolf Hitler, and, they said that Churchill was nuts. And, it's history history repeats itself. And if you don't learn from it, you're definitely destined to repeat it.
Yeah, well, that is very true. And, I have mixed feelings about this that we'll get into asking questions and stuff in a bit. But, it is expanding, because Iran's ally Hezbollah has now gotten involved. They have been hitting Beirut in Lebanon. That was on before I went, their command centers and storage centers. So that's another expansion that, I didn't expect to happen, but I think this is just the beginning. I just think this is going to be very, very, very messy, and I hope that it's over quick. We've lost some people already. Trump warned that it is going to probably happen some more. Not that we like that, but that is the truth of war. Before I have you comment on that, I got to say thanks to Cheryl Hall. She donated a coffee for us and said, hope everyone's staying prepped up and prayed up. Love to all, fear not, peace. Thank you, Cheryl Hall, for that coffee donation for us. And it looks like John E. Oh, no. We've got John E. here. Yay. But I've got a oh, no for somebody else in here. John E., did you bring somebody with you?
No.
Oh, they're here.
Who is it?
It's somebody I said was leaving and wouldn't be here.
Boy, LW.
So yeah, LW. So we've got the whole gang here. This is awesome, you guys.
I thought Jesse Duke was dead.
I told you guys in the intro that it was killing him not to be able to be on the show. He's been wanting to get on the show. So LW, how's it going?
Well, I've been better. Still don't have my voice back, so Just want to stop in and say hello to everybody before I take off to the East Coast.
Well, good. Well, good. Yeah, your voice is a little better than what it was, so that's good.
Absolutely. A lot going on. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for all the prayers for Mom. She's she was doing better, and then she got home. She was walking around. She was doing pretty good. She was eating again, and then Dad had to rush her into the ER again today for other issues. So, yeah, it's just been a wild last week. I got sick on Monday, Tuesday, and then I spent days in the hospital with Mom, and I got sick again and spent the last 2 days in bed. And today's the first day I've been up, getting stuff done. Had to work today, had some meetings to go to. So getting ready to fly out early tomorrow morning to the East Coast, go back to work. So pretty wild time while I was home. But I did get to spend a lot of time with family. I got to spend time with both my brothers, nieces and nephews. And, it's just a crazy world that we live in. And I don't think it's going to get any better for a while. I really think that this is just the beginning of a lot of wild shows that we'll have here at LWN. So thank you guys again for all your prayers. And thank you guys I had somebody send me a donation the other day for Mom. I want to let you know, and I can't remember who it was, Tammy. I'm going to save that money so that when Mom's feeling better, I'm going to take her out to dinner.
Nice.
Spoil her a little bit. Thank you for the flowers. There were some flowers sent to Mom. That much appreciated. It's been a wild ride. And you know me, Tammy, I don't have a boring life by any stretch of the means.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I was flipping around the screen because it was not showing John E in here, and I don't know how to do all that fancy stuff, LW. So this is where it's at. This is where it's at right now. But yeah, it has been a wild ride, but we appreciate you being here. But we were just starting to get into all that, gosh, with what's going on, not just in your personal life, obviously, but this world and with Iran and everything. It's just insanity.
Well, I've been listening to what John Estabrooks is putting out and Jeff B, because I haven't had a lot of time to do my own research with all the stuff going on. So I've been listening to every show that you guys do. It's very informative. And if I can say what I love the most about LWN, we try really hard not to be in an echo chamber. We have the best mods in the business. You guys are allowed to come here as long as you show respect. You can give us all your own opinions, perspectives, information that you've got. Nobody's going to beat you up here, and we'll just delete you if you're rude. Other than that, we make mistakes, and we're all human here, but we have an opportunity here to make such a huge difference in people's lives by giving them information that they can't hear at other places, especially lamestream media. My brother John Estabrooks and I and Stephen H., we spent almost 2 years doing podcasts, digging up information that was not shared rarely anywhere else. We were ahead of lamestream media for 2 years. And so the stuff that you hear here at LWN, yeah, you can find it other places on the internet. Yes, you're going to get a lot of our opinions on things. Jeff B brings a military perspective that none of the rest of us, including myself, have. And then, of course, John Estabrooks is a great author and researcher. He's got Stephen H. is another brother of ours that digs deep. And Tammy, of course, love all the production that you put together. And we got our brother War Machine in here tonight. He does all of our audio and our video and stuff. And we got other producers. So it's just a great place to be. And we love to share. We love to pray for each other. And we're just here for each other. And I just love LWN.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well said. And that's the truth. So, are you going to hang for a little bit, or is there anything else you want to say before we get rolling into the meat of the show, or
I
what?
promised somebody I was only going to spend 5 minutes on here, and
Okay.
they took that bet. They said, "There's no way you're only going to spend 5 minutes." I don't know how long it's been yet, but it's got to be close to 5 minutes. So I think I'm going to scoot out of here, give you
Okay.
guys the floor, let you all do your thing, and I'll be listening because I love listening to you guys. You guys have great chemistry. These three right here, people. Whoever's listening tonight, this is top shelf. You've got Jeff B, you got John Estabrooks, and you got Tammy the Hammer Nation. This is top shelf entertainment, top shelf perspective, and top shelf information right here. Love y'all. God bless you. And Tammy, I'll let you do the honors, and you get to kick me out. Love y'all.
Woo-hoo!
Love you, brother.
Have a good safe
See you,
trip.
Wheeling Jennings.
Boot. There he goes. Okay, there we go. That was fun. Yeah, that was nice of him to stop in. So let's get started. I guess we can say we got to welcome John E. Now, John E., you can say hello and all that, and because you didn't get a chance to do that. So what's your top of mind feeling right now as we head into the show tonight?
Stay prayed up.
Yeah, I think so.
That's the reality. I mean, there's a lot to this, a lot to unpack. Stuff that we're not, mainstream media, particularly Fox, man. I don't know. I guess they're well bought and paid for, and they're sticking to whatever narrative that they're being fed. But then they're not telling the entire story. There's so much that in the background that led up to the time frame of this that if you don't know, then you'll never know, and you just accept what the administration's putting out, and you accept what mainstream media is putting out. And a lot of it is a bunch of crap.
Yeah. So, well, let's start with this. How about this? Let's start with, we've trusted President Trump, and we were so happy he got reelected. Now with this war going on, and maybe a little before, we weren't too thrilled with some of his choices and what was going on. His popularity kind of went down. He went on the road. He's trying to, promote and endorse different people that are going to run for the midterms and stuff. And I have to admit, I kind of fell to the wayside with him too when this happened, because he ran on no more wars. He talked about eliminating 8 wars and helping to snuff those out. And then for me, I'm going to say this is just a normal middle-aged woman. I don't have the experience when it comes towards like Jeff does, or maybe the background that you have, John. But I'm going to say this felt to me like it came out of nowhere. And I'm like, my head started spinning. I'm saying, wait a minute, where did this come from? Why? I know he was warning Iran, if you don't listen and make negotiations and pause this whole production of everything, that especially the nuke stuff, that's the big thing. You can't have nukes and you can't be producing uranium. If you don't do it, you're going to have a price to pay. And then the next thing I know, we're in this war and it's blossoming everywhere. So I'm going to ask Jeff B first, and then I'll ask you, can you explain why you think this happened now, and what was the final thing that pulled the trigger for Trump to do this, Jeff?
Well, I think a lot of this goes back to Israel. If you were, the ultimate goal, I believe, is to expose the deep state. The ultimate goal is to rid our country of congressional members who've been bought and paid for, and judges who have been bought and paid for, prosecutors that have been bought and paid for. And that letter in the alphabet talks about save Israel for last. And I've been back and forth on what the meaning of that is. But when you sit back and you look how all this scenario is playing out, you have all these Middle Eastern countries now backing the United States and Israel. You have bin Salman, who, after the airstrike earlier today, I was told made a phone call to Trump and basically said, okay, gloves off. And I believe Iran is the Israeli Baba Yaga, which is the boogeyman. So if you remove the boogeyman from this equation, Israel has no reason to lobby our Congress because there is no quote unquote threat in the Middle East. And you see all these Arab nations coming together. And I believe that the intelligence that the Gang of Eight was given and why Chuck Schumer was so startled is I personally believe they caught something coming into the country, whether it was a dirty bomb or they intercepted plans of what was going to happen. I mean, Iran is going to attack all our ally bases in the Middle East. That's their only thing that they can do right now because I think it was 5 hours ago, we pretty much sunk half their Navy fleet because they tried to close off the Straits of Hormuz, and somebody thought it was smart to go close to the Abraham Lincoln, and we laid some hate and put that joker to the bottom of the drink. So I think there's I believe the big play is possibly exposing Israel for other stuff. I mean, that all things point in that direction in my mind.
Very good. Johnny, what do you think? What say you?
Well, I agree with that. There's some things that, number one, history tells us that every war in our lifetime, in our parents' lifetime, in our grandparents' lifetime was always instigated and started over failing economies. And the U.S., so much of what we're witnessing today since the war started in economics, and the fact that the banks had a big leverage move, especially Chase, on their shorts in the commodities market for gold and silver, that they had to either fill the orders and take the contracts, which they did, but then you have to understand they manipulated the price downward so that they got a better deal. And then also we have to keep and be mindful that same thing holds true for Europe in the Central Bank of London. And that always involves the Zionists, and because those are the bankers. So the bankers were in one heck of a pinch. And then it became obvious today with the moves that Chase made to fill the contracts and take delivery, but they're doing it and locking it in at a price, and before they've even received delivery, selling gold to China, and they're making $700 an ounce by selling the physical metal to China. Now, they'll be able, because they also had to announce today, the Federal Reserve, that all of our banks are going to meet compliance with Basel III. So everything's about money and finance. And then if you want to profit, look at the profiteers of war. Look at when we've driven ourselves to war, regardless of what the war is. You can't name a war that you can't pinpoint 6 months or 1 year in advance of that to where there was total economic turmoil and collapse, hyperinflation, and every time that a nation's faced that. But now here's the big catch. The very rats that have done that in the past are in the trap. They're trapped. They are trapped like rats. So what's that mean? Debasement of the dollar, That's going to happen. Already is happening. You're feeling it every single day. You can't run from that. But when you look at this, there's great logic behind what Jeff said. Israel has always used Iran as the boogeyman. And we always hear all our media say, you know, they're the greatest sponsor of terrorism around the planet. No, that's not absolutely true. There's so much violence that's taking place on the Sunni side that we don't even confront, we don't talk about, because it's not conducive to the Israeli press that controls our media. So the actions that have been taken, terrorist actions by Sunnis, aren't spoken about. So they pinpoint, and they got this great target on Iran. Look at what Barack Obama did, and a lot of that's going to come to light, because now the criminality of what took place with Barack Obama, Jeffrey Epstein, Chase Bank, multiple banks, in actually funding Iran. Pallets of money flown on planes from the United States of America to Iran under the Barack Obama regime administration. So all that's coming to light. What will be captured? Because it's very clear to me that there definitely was Mossad operating inside of Iran to be able to target Ayatollah, but not only just Ayatollah, but some of the military leaders. They had pinpoint targets on those guys to be able to assassinate them, because that's what they do very proficiently. Mm-hmm. And they did. So, I mean, that was something that everybody, once the button was hit, you had to know that guy was in the scope. He was either somewhere where they could get a definite kill shot on him. So it doesn't have anything to do with day, night, or anything else. He was in a vulnerable position with the insider that could assassinate him. So that's what happened. But it's the reasoning behind it, you know. So they're trying to cover up what eventually is going to come out on Epstein's funding. And think about who Epstein was. He was a Mossad agent. So operating inside of Iran and buddying up with money inside of Iran gave him access to the boogeyman. He could go into, and the Iranians thought, oh, this guy's one of us. You know, he's with the Shiites. Well, it turns out he's not with anybody. He's with who Mossad and the CIA told him to be with. So this is my hope and prayers. Number one is for the safety of every one of our armed forces. Everybody on one of those ships, I mean, we've got to keep them in our prayers. Mm-hmm. We got to hope that this doesn't break down into any possibility of a frickin' putting troops on the ground. I hope Trump's not that stupid. But I do think that BB pulled the trigger, BB pulled the chain, and said, hey, we got Ayatollah in our sights, and we got 5-10 military top leaders that we can take out now. We need to move, and that's why Donald Trump moved. And he's not going to come out and tell you that. They're going to feed you some story about imminent nukes. Well, wait a while. What the hell did you just tell us about Midnight Hammer? You think that was all a smoke screen, Jeff? Did Midnight Hammer not wipe out all the centrifuges and do everything that we needed to do?
Right.
Yeah, well, I was going to say too, BB, you can go back and watch video of him, how he's always saying that they cannot have nuclear weapons. They cannot be making nukes. BB has wanted this for a very long time. Many, many years he's waited. So he's frothing at the mouth over this. And he was saying that basically the tyrants of Tehran target civilians, but we target the tyrants of Tehran to protect the civilians. And he said, you know, I told everybody they would attack Europe, and they have. And he basically backed what Trump is saying they can't have nuclear weapons, but that has been going on for a very long time. So I've got a couple questions. But first of all, I want to say and remind everyone, LW reminded me to remind you, is there's a giveaway at the end of the March for that pellet grill, and we've got some coins and stuff as well. And to qualify, all you have to do is donate $5 through Super Chats, to buy me a coffee or anything, and every $5 is an entry for you to win those coins and that pellet grill, because I didn't realize we're at the beginning of March already, so not much longer to go. So there's that. And then there's a question here that Search for Truth Travis has, and I think this is pretty interesting. If Israel's buying our politicians, why would Soros fund the protest siding with them? I'm not going to say that word. The dictators. So that's a question for you, Jeff B.
Well, if you're trying to topple a government, if you're trying to do a coup inside our government, which is what they've been planning, they wanted to see this great empire collapse. You have to keep going with what was working. Well, now, it's not working as much as I mean, look at Portland. You don't hear, or you're not seeing many protesters out in front of these ICE facilities. You're not seeing, or at least the media is not covering, any of these demented kids that are out jumping in front of ICE vehicles. So it's they're throwing everything they can at this. Why in the background you have something that probably no one knows Trump did over the weekend that is going to put pause in everybody, and why I believe now Trump is getting ready to go for Cuba. So over the weekend, Trump did an executive order to give the military, Seabees, $500 million to build 2 more courtrooms on Gitmo and to build another geriatric facility on Gitmo. Now, I don't know why we're building all these courthouses and these geriatric wards on Gitmo. I mean, supposedly the war on terror is over with. So,
well, that's interesting.
Who are we going to be putting down there? And why are there 2 Navy vessels sitting just over the 12 nautical mile line off the coast of Cuba? Now, my thoughts are, if you have 2 Navy vessels that possibly they're not hospital ships, but if they're being used as hospital ships, you have them in international waters. Are we holding people off the coast of Gitmo?
Oh, get out. Are you serious? Wow.
Look, I was told that this morning, and I started making some phone calls and looking up the executive order, and it seems to be aligning, and maybe Cuba is going to play a very particular role going into the midterms.
Well, yeah, we've been talking about that over there, and it kind of went away. Now this is in the forefront, and I want to be surprised. I want to say thanks real quick to Tennessee Ridge Runner, who said made a donation of coffees, saying he wants to keep the lights on for the Patriots. So we really appreciate that, Ridge Runner. Thank you so much, sir. I don't know. This is, like I said, that is why it's so good to have these conversations, and I can't say it enough, because that's a bit of information that I didn't hear about trying to cover just where the arms of all this is reaching right now, and who's doing what to who, and how people are doing, and trying to find out for the president, which he had a ceremony, a medal ceremony today that I watched do today, and that was very moving. But you try to figure out and try to get a timeline, because I think that's human nature to try to understand what's going on, even if you don't agree with it. But then this aspect that you bring up about the dang Gitmo again and building that and money towards it, that is a actual factual reality. That is not somebody just saying it. So Johnny, what do you think about what Jeff just told us?
Well, you're going to need a lot of room. Think about if that becomes the reality. So you wipe this little Iranian deal out, and trust me, with air superiority, the United States will obliterate their missile capability, their manufacturing capability for any further missiles. China can't get in to supply them with any more hypersonic missiles. And that's kind of irony, and that's somewhat the excuse that Trump and I'm trying to think, the military are actually advancing that China was going in and delivering hypersonic equipment to Iran so that they could step up and ramp up an already fast-paced ballistic missile capability, because they're building missiles faster than we can right now. I mean, they've been doing that track ever since the Fordham deal. So Midnight Hammer may have taken out the possibility for the nuclear warhead part of it, but it certainly didn't deter their missile advancement. So now when Trump cleans the table of that and BB can't, they're no longer a threat. How do you convince anybody when you obliterate all the manufacturing capability? And trust me, our military knows where every piece of equipment is. So once they take that out and they clean the plate of the Iran threat, what's next for Israel? Well, then you can start dealing with the criminals inside of Israel. And also, time frame wise, if you look 5-6 weeks out, mid-April, there's going to be a lot come forward in our nation. The rats are being trapped, and let's just hope that we're going to need a lot of nice space for them on Gitmo. I can buy that. I can buy that 100%. It fits in, even with the economic chaos that's going to take place. We already know the buttons and the mechanisms. Stephen and I look at it every day. We'll go to a stable coin economy, and it'll be asset backed. And then that's going to take some adjustment for the entire country. But to open that door, the rat is Israel. If you don't deal with Israel, and the Zionists located in Israel, because Europe's a done deal, man. Europe is in massive decline. The U.S. economy, it's got all kinds of signs. Oh, it's doing great. It's doing wonderful. And Trump can do that. But you got to understand, there's not a single market, I don't care if it's commodities, crypto, stock market, that they cannot manipulate. We've already proven it more than one time. They can manipulate and make it say anything, because what do they have to have? They have to have buy-in by the American people to advance this cashless society or whatever, where they're advancing that. But then they also have to feed the appetite, because trust me, they got the polls. Americans want to see arrest of the criminals responsible for the satanic crap that Epstein did and everybody associated with Epstein. And then we want to see Dr. Anthony Fauci pay his dues and everything that they did to us during COVID. So Trump and the RNC have got all that information, time frame, think midterm. So we got to get something going. and we have to provide. Oh, April would be a perfect timing. You know, we get into April and May and let the Americans and let the Republicans that have supported Trump, the America First, let them see some arrest. Let it make a massive arrest. And then what do? We calm down and say, well, maybe the old 17 had it right. And we take a back seat and we kind of relax and we just let it take its place. So some of it makes a lot of sense, a lot of logic to that.
Well, with Jeff saying that about Gitmo, what you just said, and you know, I hate to say this, but Trump again today during this awards ceremony was talking about one of the military men. He goes, "You're so good looking." He goes, "I think we're gonna get you in central casting." He said, "Hey, Headseth, how about him for central casting?" No, Jeff B, I don't have my tinfoil hat on. I've put that away.
Well, you know, I think it was his speech this morning that he come out and he had the white USA cap on again.
Yeah.
And this right before his speech, I got a call from the big chair saying that 3 true bill indictments were passed down. He wouldn't tell me who they were, but he said he's being told in 3 to 6 weeks they're going to name they're going to name a very, very, very big arrest that's going to shake the foundation of all of this shit. And it's kind of interesting that Trump says, this here may take 4 weeks. He's putting out all of this craziness again and pointing everybody in the direction. I mean, he's here giving out medals, and he turns and he talks about the golden curtain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
What the heck was, I'm going to save the curtains.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you sit, my oldest brother was like, "What the hell is this guy doing?" And I'm like, "Look," I said, "there's not enough time in the day to try to explain this to you, but all of this stuff, he's trying to tell people something who kind of have a lot of tinfoil in their cupboard and they know how to make hats." But I mean, he said, "Look at this golden curtain, and if you open it up, and you'll see that beautiful ballroom that's almost complete." Now, I personally think come July 4th, we're going to know a serious direction, because I think they're going to try to topple the Federal Reserve, right?
It's already over, Jeff.
Right. What better way to topple the Federal Reserve is to make the old currency null and void, and you roll out the new gold-backed currency that I showed pictures of probably about 5 years ago. It's been 6 years ago that I was sent a picture from somebody from Treasury that said, "Oh, this is kind of interesting, this new currency that the Mint's putting out."
I'm kind of speechless right now. That's a lot. So there's a question in the chat that LW put in there. Does anybody think that Obama's going to be the first arrest? And then M here gave us a $5 donation. Thank you so much there. So that makes sense. And Kathy H actually said that Obama lawyered up, and I read that today, that he's got multiple lawyers. Yep. I find that interesting as well.
Nine.
Yeah, he's got a posse.
It's not civil attorneys. It's hired 9 of the sharpest criminal attorneys.
Okay.
Yeah, because that indictment's coming down. This
right.
Iran deal is gonna. It's gonna. Here's the deal. With everything Chase is manipulating right now, they're doing it through the QFS. So it's all trackable and traceable. they're going to know that these rats were fixing to dump their debt on the American people, the taxpayers, get physical gold and sell it to China for profit.
Wow.
That's going to be known. And guess who they're part of? The Central Bank, the Federal Reserve. They're trapped like rats. They can't help themselves, because if they don't do this, they have to make all of us aware just how bad the economic situation is for the U.S. dollar. BRICS is for real. You can't stop that, folks. It's done. The Fed is dead. Write it down, put it somewhere, so that you. So whenever they decide to flip the, and listen, what a glorious day that would be on July 4th if he were to announce that we're going to a gold-backed, asset-backed currency. I don't care whether it's stable coin, and he's big on stable coin. The only thing that we need to legislate, and people are working on it, states have already worked on it. We don't want no programmable stable coin. You want to have a stable coin backed by gold and back our currency, whether it's a rainbow currency, I don't care. As long as you don't attempt to, number one, if you try to go cashless, or you try to make it programmable, and that's something that may not happen in the next 5 years, but it's something you better keep your mind wrapped around that could happen within the next 10 years. And when that happens, we're all captured. We'll be slaves to whatever they want us to believe, whatever we can. They'll control everything. That scares me. Did you see anybody watch Tucker Carlson and Catherine Phipps? It was a great interview.
Yeah.
It was a great interview.
What was it about?
Exactly what I'm trying to tell you. This whole Iran deal, everything about this Iranian war. Number one, it's pushed by Benjamin Netanyahu.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have to understand, Benjamin Netanyahu is nothing but a Zionist, and I'm not an anti-Semite. I won't tolerate people trying to, say that I'm anti-Jew. That's all crap. I'm not.
It's just noise. It's dumb. It's dumb noise, John.
Yeah, it's dumb noise. And here's the thing: we have far too a body of evidence and truth, facts of what Benjamin Netanyahu in recorded speeches has said. And if he could, he would take. He's operating on the principles from the Old Testament that Israel is supposed to be, from the Euphrates all the way to the sea. Well, wait a while. Do you know what nations that takes in? What are you going to tell Qatar? Oh, you're next. Watch. Here's my deal with what will be the linchpin to isolate Bibi Netanyahu and Israel from the United States of America, is when he advances any type of attack against Turkey.
You think? What do you say, Jeff?
Well, going back to Obama lawyering up.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, I think that was announced earlier today, the rundown. Well, that would fit true, since I was told the true bill indictments come down from the GJ, the grand juries that are doing this, and kind of, who was Obama's basically planner. You got Valerie Jarrett, you have Holder, who was responsible for Fast and Furious. So I foresee, because Trump's acting cocky again.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, he went from being mad to is like the arrogance, the confidence, and the cockiness is there. And he actually came out and said, Iran tried to take him out twice, and he said, so I took him out. He goes, I beat him to the punch. I didn't know Iran tried to take Trump out twice. I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Well,
over the last 6 months, huh?
Right. And just within the last 48 hours, the Muftis inside of Iran issued a fatwa against all Americans.
Oh, fatwa's serious business with them. That is their like breath of life. That
Right.
fatwa.
And so, to me, that is probably the signal for, not only inside the United States, but all of our interest outside of the United States. People better keep their head on a swivel, because look, you look at Austin, Texas, all the mosque. Look
Yeah.
at Dearborn, Michigan.
Oh, it's
It
bad.
wouldn't surprise me that the FBI and Homeland Security don't roll into Dearborn, Michigan soon, because it was found. I found out this morning that somebody had Kristi Noem's whole office bugged,
Oh,
and
gosh.
a team from NSA and ONI, Office of Naval Intelligence, went in and debugged her complete office, because they didn't know. I guess no one had a clue that her office was bugged. So now there's a huge investigation on who, what, when, where, and how. And mysteriously, Kash Patel fired about 4 FBI agents this morning, and they were removed in handcuffs. But nobody in the media is even talking about this shit.
No.
No, they're not. Well, in the whole thing with Texas, I read somewhere today that there's been a mosque that's been opening once a month for the last, I don't know how many years, that there's a ridiculous amount there. And it's just one of those things that got away. Nobody was really paying enough attention to it to stop it or cared or whatever was going on. Just like the fraud with the Somalians, like what happened to all that? That kind of went away too. Remember, they've been investigating that, and that Nick Shirley guy is now in different places. And we were all PO'd at the Somalians, the way that they've had all this corruption and the way the money laundering was going through these child care facilities that were all bogus. So that's gone to the wayside too. It's like, where's this stuff going?
Well, I think some of this stuff is put out there to put it into the forefront to be shown later on. I find it kind of ironic with, during the State of the Union, how the cameras mysteriously and the photographers mysteriously were able and knew exactly when to zoom in when this Ilhan Omar was making all these comments. So, to me, it's kind of like, how did you guys know to do this? It's just, I have a feeling in a year we're going to be looking at a completely different world. And the reason I say that, we're going to be going into the midterms. Now, I'm probably going to be proven wrong, but I don't think we're voting this midterm. I could be wrong. But hypothetically, let's say they have gotten rid of all the fraud and Trump loses the midterms. Okay? He loses the House. He loses the Senate. You know what the next 2 years will be like after that? Nothing but impeachments.
Over and over and over.
Exactly.
It's going to be.
So if there is such a thing as what I believe the Insurrection Act was invoked, the military is in a continuity of government status, something has to be done between now and the midterms that I've been saying for 8 years is going to be a constitutional crisis. And, with the Supreme Court, and when John was talking about how China's never paid for the whooping cough, well, I think the Supreme Court, when they handed down that decision on the tariffs, kind of gave Trump the green light to start collecting that money from China, what's going to be due, and redistributed to, the American people who were impacted.
Wow.
Because you notice the media isn't saying anything more about Trump's $2,000 dividend checks.
Yeah.
'Cause they were starting to get on his ass about that, and
Mm-hmm.
then all of a sudden they shut up on that again. So
Wow.
that to me tells me that there is something in the works, and I believe QFS has a lot to do with it, and I know for a fact that QFS exists because before one of my buddies transferred out of the FBI, the last project he was doing was introducing AI into QFS to see how it would integrate with the systems that they currently have, which tells me the IRS is gone.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, speaking of AI, listen, John H., he's been a viewer and follower and actually a co-host on the show many a times, a computer expert, and that's me, or intelligence security. I'm not exactly sure what his title is. He doesn't tell me. I try to ask him and he doesn't tell me, but he put up here that our AI detected protests against the war a full 20 minutes before it started. Someone in Trump's inner circles compromised. Now, that is a very, very scary thought, especially with AI now. You would think these people wouldn't be trying to do what they're doing in a bad way because they're going to get caught. But this is terrifying. But we've talked many times about how Trump's inner circle is compromised. There's just like 2 FBIs. I mean, Dan Bongino came out and said that. People don't like Kash Patel per se because they think he's compromised as well. So this is like pretty scary to me.
Well, yeah, but people have to realize, and they really wouldn't unless they've been in the intelligence community, worked at the White House, that when you go up for a special caveat to be able to go into the White House, okay, it's part of a security clearance thing. When you sign that paperwork for that program, project, whatever you're going to the White House, you have to sign a form that states all your electronical devices will be monitored. Everything.
Wow.
So that was the gift that George W. Bush gave us with the FISA, because that was the birth child of what the Secret Service was able to do. And so when you go in to the White House and they scan you for any type of devices and your cell phone goes in there, they have equipment and software that gets the IP address, gets the MAC, gets the ESN. They know everything that's going through that phone, all those devices, and all that stuff is archived and sifted through the Secret Service and through NSA. So, I mean, there's a lot of components to this that, I'm sure even Bongino in his little time that he was at the FBI, and me personally, I think that job became too much for him.
Mm-hmm.
And, because from what I see, I think everybody can agree he's no nonsense. And if a crime's committed, they should be arrested. Well, anybody who, just look at Trump during, I believe it was Trump, it might have been Hegseth. They have been planning this operation inside of Iran since Trump's first administration.
That's
so
crazy.
Once, the military is slow at doing things, but once they get the go ahead, this is what you see. It's when they have a commander in chief that won't tie their hands.
Yeah. Well, that comes back to my initial question almost towards the beginning of the show. We've trusted Trump with so many things, and then that went to the wayside. But, when you take away Trump and you think about what would happen if he wasn't around, I would be probably freaking out. I do trust him. I guess it's the uncertainty of war and the uncertainty of what is going to happen, wanting it over quick. But the reality is, and I wanted to know what you guys think about this. I don't think that he would be able to do everything that he said he could do if he didn't get control over the money and the corruption worldwide and take the drugs down, the sex trafficking down, the banking systems, all the systems like you guys have been talking about tonight. So in reality, was this a necessity? Because the Ayatollah should have been taken out a long time ago. He's been getting away with things for many, many years, and many presidents have talked about taking him out or trying to give him harsh words or make deals with him, and it's never worked out. Trump goes in, and within one day, a beginning, he wipes him out. I mean, that's pretty incredible. So even though we may not like war, the question is, do we trust him? Do we think he's handling it the best way possible? I guess is my question to both you and John, and I'll start with you, John.
Well, you know, that's a difficult thing to know, Tammy, because we really don't have the insight that the military does, and exactly, you know, what are his plans. You know, he's given us a lot of insight now. You know, he wants to remove their ability to be able to launch any type of missile. So, you know, and that means you got to find everything they got above ground and below ground. So it's going to be I don't think you get it done in just a week or 2 weeks. I think it's going to take 5-6 weeks. If, you know, things don't, I don't know, you know, right now, if we have air superiority, that means we're able to fly at will and hit targets at will. He might shorten it up. It might, and here's the thing. Media says, if you listen to them, that 80% of the Iranian people are ready for regime change. But I don't know. You know, when you see Tehran, is it so isolated from the rest of Iran that the people there are so ingrained into the mullahs and the, you know, clerics? And if they are, well, that's one set. But then show me the people that are where are the protesters now? You know, because we know anywhere from 10 to 30,000 of them were murdered and killed for protesting. Where were they? You know, because clearly when they went into Tehran, they were rounded up. So if they're taking out Ayatollah, they just appointed another mullah. You know, I mean, they just got another cleric to take his place. But how much military power, and that's Trump's mission. I mean, this is a military operation to destroy the military capability of Iran. Certainly there will be civilian casualties, you know, and my heart goes out, and you have to think about it. I've shared this with Jackie. On the first day when they targeted and hit a girls' school, and these little girls lived in there, they were being trained, religiously trained. And so they were on site. And when they were killed, well, each one of them probably had two parents, a mama and a daddy. And now they have an enemy that they will hate forever. And it will be the United States and Israel. You know, and so you got to understand these people are they're religious zealots. You know, they're brainwashed. What kind of person straps on dynamite onto a kid and then marches him in to blow people up? You know, that's who these people are, and they do it based on a lie. It's not from their Quran. And if it is, then it's been bastardized, because the Quran is, by all means, it's I couldn't follow the Quran. I from just reading what I read, I said, well, you guys have missed your mark. They lost me when they start talking about a man birthing the what is it, Jeff? What do they call the cat that's supposed to be coming?
The what, sir?
Their second, you know, birth of not Christ. What's their?
Oh, Muhammad.
Well, Muhammad, and he'll be born from a man. Come on, man. That's when I closed the book. I said, well, you son of a bitch,
Yeah.
you're crazy.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
you know, in
But
it,
I hope it's over quick, and I just hope we don't lose a lot of our men and women.
well, you know, and I take what Trump said, you know, less than 24 hours ago. He come out and told the Iranian people, you have to take your country back.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is probably going to be your only shot. We're in it. We're going to help you do it, but you got to step up if you want freedom. Now, when you take a look, you look at Venezuela, we took that out. Cuba's on deck. Why do I get a sneaky suspicion? There is a very particular reason why Donald Trump, for weeks on end, talked about the Monroe Doctrine. It seems like our military and allies are going through and getting rid of these bully countries that, you know, possibly could have been vassals for the deep state and for people like Soros, the Clinton Foundation. And we're systematically taking these people out so to set up the quote unquote Monroe Doctrine within their regions. You know, I mean, I never would have thought, if you'd have told me 8 weeks ago that Ben Salman would put his forces on a ready state to go into Iran, I'd have said you're smoking crack.
Yeah.
But, you know, to me, the writing is on the wall. I mean, you have this Ayatollah. We took him out. The mullahs appointed the new one, and we blew him up within an hour of him being named.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's not a job that's going to be filled too easy. And I think that's what I think our focus is going to be right now, is at these clerics and start taking them out.
Well, I don't even know who's going to want to take that position after they've seen what's coming at them. And this was interesting to me, too, because Israel did deploy the beam laser defense system for the first time. And that air defense system is against rockets and drones. And that was given to them, the Israeli Air Force, in late December of 2025. So this is really the first time they've used it. And that thing intercepts incoming and drones and rockets, and it destroyed the Hezbollah drone that came at them. And I think that's pretty cool. And when we talk about technology and stuff, a lot of times it's the bad things that we discuss, but this is where it's a good thing, where it can be that exact and that precise. And we've been seeing that in the video that they've been putting out there of getting the ships and the different buildings and whatnot. It's pretty incredible. It is a totally different war this time than ever before.
But yeah, and you know, Trump said that there are going to be weapons unleashed that no one has ever seen before. And there was a clip that CENTCOM had put up on Twitter, and it was quickly taken down. It showed a drone, one of our drones, going into a building. Prior to it going into a building, it shot a laser and cut the glass so the drone could fly in without breaking the glass. And when that drone went in, that whole building collapsed. And we're not talking a very big drone, because it was able to go through a window. So I think that we're, you know, I counted over the last 15 minutes, we got, and people are going to laugh when I say this, 17 tankers that have just left the continental United States. And I'm guessing they're taking these stealth bombers over. And probably within the next few hours, we're going to start seeing a lot of kabooms in Beirut and, you know, Iran, and some of these other countries that in the Middle East that I was told that had contacted the White House saying, hey, can you help us out, eliminate Hezbollah and all of that in our country? Because, this is going to be a one-time deal because, Trump said he wasn't into nation building. And I think that's why he put out that statement to the Iranian people that this is your only shot. So you guys better, take, and I'm sure, Reza Pahlavi is having a lot of influence on, what to be done. And, it would be nice to have an area in the Middle East that, wasn't the boogeyman anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder what do you guys see as the end game to this? What do you think Trump hopes that Iran finds a good leader and they get their freedom and it's ran well, and that's all fine and good. But what about all these other countries like Afghanistan, Pakistan? That's a whole separate issue, because even if Iran gets it together and they have their freedom and they get their heads on straight, let's just say, if that can be possibly even happen, what is the end game with everything? Like, how do you stop it all and everybody be peaceful once it's all started like it is?
Well,
John?
let me ask you a question. So you're a leader of one of these countries, the Taliban in Afghanistan. I don't care where you're at, Syria. It doesn't matter where you're at. What you're having to witness for your very self is a president that does not play. When he tells you he's going to do something, you can't defeat the United States military. And that's what's going to become clear to everybody on the planet. China's watching. You can bet China is watching because here's what, right now, while we're launching missile barrages, think about all the weapons that we're using right now that China's not calculating. Okay, they're vulnerable. They don't have replacements. Because don't think that that's not a vulnerability. How many do we have? How many does each one of the fleets over there, and what munitions are available before they have to go to port? So there's all of those things that are yet to play out. But just remember that red dragon's watching. Russia's watching. And Putin is already, his stockpiles are depleted, but he's been on a war footing now for 4 years? Where his munitions factories are cranked up. What are we doing in the United States? I have concerns about that, because we're not cranking at the rate we should be. And we need to go ahead, and if we're going to do this, you're not going to be able, you may frighten the smaller countries that have some type of terrorist identity, and all they'll learn from this is DJT don't play. If he decides to pinpoint us, look what he just did to Iran and the size of Iran.
Because there's 90 million people there. It's big there. It's huge. It's huge there.
Yeah, it is.
So that's why that's what freaks me out, is him to say, hey, it's only going to take 4 to 5 weeks. Wow, that's incredible. Jeff, what do you think?
Well, when you have a commander-in-chief that lets the military do what they know how to do, win wars, I think, China's probably going to be sitting back and thinking, holy shit, these guys took out the mullah, or the Ayatollah, took out his replacement within hours. They took out the president of Venezuela. I'm sure North Korea has probably made a phone call to, Donald Trump saying, hey, are we still good?
Rocket Man.
It's got to weigh on your mind.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I would be nervous. And I think this goes back to, when Trump in his first term did his global tour and he laid everything out. And, not even to make any of this even crazier, you have the statement that Vladimir Zelensky made over the weekend when France said that they were going to help out. Zelensky told the European Union, don't worry, Europe, Ukraine will protect you. What?
What?
What are you talking about, dude? Supposedly Russia's already supposed to have been defeated if you listen to the talking heads, but for Zelensky to come out and say, don't worry, Europe, we'll protect you. It was when I was watching this on Russia 24, the interview, I was like, even the broadcasters were like, are you using your own product now? Because it was just a statement made out of nowhere, and really weird.
This is insanity. Oh
I
gosh.
wonder
Yeah.
what that. I'd like to see the numbers on just how many Ukrainian military their soldiers still remain. Because God dog, that's been a bloodbath. That's been a meat grinder.
Well, right, and where are they getting all the people from? Because if you listen to even people on YouTube that are Ukrainian bros, apparently Russia's been losing 100,000 people a month. So I don't know. Not that I don't believe that the Russia-Ukraine thing is going on. I do, but a war of that magnitude, why is there no embedded reporters like there was during the Gulf War?
Really?
Because the media outlets would love to have that, because that's a ratings bonanza, which means money in their pockets. Yeah. So I don't get that whole thing. And look, when I told people, I think it was last week, that I was told that Israel was going to do the initial wave, which they did. What's the first thing that they did? They started blocking the internet and dropping power grids in certain areas inside of Iran. Russia wasn't smart enough to do that in Ukraine. To me, that, and the story about Chernobyl, how many times has that damn thing melted down over and over again over the last 4 years? I don't know. It just seems awfully fishy to me.
Well, it is.
I think we're being played with that. I don't
know. Absolutely.
I think the Ukraine deal is done and Russia's going to be in control.
Well, and does this go back to, the Monroe Doctrine? We're the big boy on the block in our hemisphere. Russia is, Eurasia. China naturally is going to handle Asia. Are we going to allow the UK to handle Europe? Well, if that's the case, then there has to be a come to Jesus moment between the crown and their government. And I think that's probably where, the Epstein stuff starts to come out over there.
Well, when you guys talk about China watching, Russia watching, remember, I think it was last week, I said that Xi came out and said that we have to, the United States, to stay friendly in talking and negotiating, we have to accept them as a nuclear country, that there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So to me, that's a definite line in the sand that he is drawn, that as we're attacking Iran about nukes, Xi's not saying he's going to back down or not going to stop doing it. So do we get done with this? And then he comes in, barreling in, and we start having problems with him. That's a big concern.
I think this is going to push his ability to take Taiwan back. That's what I see. If you're looking at the big picture and you see everything split up into 5 different sovereign nations, Taiwan will fall. And I don't know how we'll be capable of going and defending Taiwan. You know, it depends on how long this event takes. That was one of my big deals is, okay, if Iran is that close and that's the issue, that they are experimenting and they're going ahead and they're still cranking out yellow cake. And if that's the case, all right, go clean it up, but do it fast, do it strategic, and end it. And I think that's hopefully that's Trump's mission. I would have liked to seen a better communication between. And listen, I could care less what he tells them jacklegs in Washington, D.C., but I think we, the people, that sons and daughters are on those ships and flying those planes, I think we deserve to have an insight of what is the mission, by God. Lay it out. Give me your exit strategy, because we've already said we didn't elect you in America first. That was one of the things. We don't want none of these endless freaking wars like Afghanistan, like Iraq. We're done with that. We've played all that. We've sacrificed all the children. We're going to give you son of a bitches. So if you're going to do it, at least let us know what we're fighting for, and keep the people. I don't want to hear it from anybody on Fox News. Them Zionists. So I don't want to listen to none of the mainstream media. But I want to listen and hear my president tell me, here's what I knew, here's what I had to do, here's how long it's going to take. And Hexeth coming out there, that's central casting for damn sure. But when I see Raising Cane, I pay attention.
Yeah.
I trust that old guy, you know, and so he is mission driven. But share that with us. Once you hit the button and you went on go, I think you should have come on that TV and shut everything down and given us a little fireside chat about here's why, here's the mission, and here's how long we project it's going to take. Then we could all chill out and we'll say, hey, hoorah, America. Listen, I was going to show y'all, I got a deal. My brother, when he was in Iraq, he's a Ranger, and he gave me it's kind of a sacred patch that I put on my motorcycle vest. And it's hold on a minute. I'll see if I can get y'all a close up. And see if you can read it.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Yep. Kill them all and let God sort them out.
Oh, that's nice. Wow. That's pretty cool. Well,
I mean, you know, Harry was there in Afghanistan. He was in Iraq multiple times. And the one thing that he was clear about, because when he comes to Louisiana, we're men, and we'll sit down and have a good shot of good whiskey. And in our conversations, that's the one thing he said, Johnny, and that's what he calls me. Johnny, there's no way we can fix these people. They have fought each other throughout all of history. You're not going to make a Shiite love a Sunni, and a Sunni's never going to love and allow a Shiite to live. They're going to battle and kill each other. And he goes, that's just a fact. He goes, and we can do all we want, all the humanitarian aid, and go in and rebuild their governments. But as long as one faction ever gets a toehold into one of those countries, they're going to fight each other. So that's what we're up against, you know, and it's religious. And hey, whether we like it or not, that's just a fact. They battle each other.
That's what I'm saying. What is the end game? Because you have all these different religious beliefs and it's spiritual, and they believe, you know, death to everybody but them. I mean, they say death to America, death to Israel. It is just, it's insanity to me to think that you're going to be able to negotiate or wheel and deal with them. That's why I say after this is done, we need to just stay away, stay out, and mind our own business and protect our own borders. But I wanted to share this too with you guys, and Jeff, see what you have to think about it. Because when I talked about China just came out and said that he's urging Israel and the U.S. to immediately cease military action against Iran and warned that regional turmoil could harm the global economy, including energy flows through the Strait of Hormuz. And that is what I wanted to talk about with you guys as well, because that is where the oil goes through and stuff. We're cutting
Yep.
it off of China. So they're getting really pissed off. So
Yeah.
I think that there's a fire being lit under his ass about this Strait of Hormuz. So what do you say about that, Jeff? How do we get out of that one?
Well, I mean, the Fifth Fleet has always had basically the statement of free maritime traffic in that strait, and I'm sure that the CCP is all up Xi's ass about this, and naturally, yeah, they want it to cease because they get a lot of their petroleum from that region. Well, the world does for the most part. But in one hand they're saying, oh, we have to come to a peace agreement and yada yada. I don't think that's going to happen. They had their opportunity, and when the Iranians, the IRGC comes out and they say, hey, we're gonna block the Straits of Hormuz, and the fleet commander for Fifth Fleet said basically challenge accepted, because they know what'll happen. I mean, when I was in the Gulf region, we do boarding teams on these idiots, because they just they'll stop a ship in the middle of the drink, and so the Iranians could train at that time Silkworm missiles on our ships, and it never turned out too well for them.
No. And I don't think that's the one thing I'm pretty secure about.
Oh yeah,
they can give it a shot, and listen, China's got a legitimate bitch because that's 25% of their oil.
Right?
And listen, they get that oil about $20 a barrel cheaper than anybody else, because the Iranians got to sell it to somebody because of all the sanctions. So we're hurting the Chinese economy if oil freely can't flow through the Hormuz. But I'm telling you, I'm sure we have control of that son of a bitch.
Oh, and I'm sure in this may be, we're not. I don't foresee us attacking China. This may be the plan to cripple China into some sort of submission for the Monroe Doctrine, is by cutting off that petroleum.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. Whatever finishes with when you, because don't think that the Iranian crude oil supply is not under attack, because that's just military wherewithal, is to limit the fuel capacity of your enemy. If they can't refuel and they can't, so that's just part of war. So whatever happens, it's not going to be like the port's just going to open up for China to pull up in there anytime soon. That's a dream that they can forget about. And will it cripple their economy? Yeah, it's going to hurt the Chinese economy. But then it also forces them to have to go to other means and start paying. Think of what they were doing down in Venezuela. What were they getting from Maduro? Cheap oil.
Yep.
Sanctioned oil. Iran, cheap oil for China. Well, wait a while, China. Step up to the plate, pay the $75 a barrel just like every other son of a bitch, and then you can have your oil. And that's just a fact. And that's a great move on our part.
Yeah.
Because that's the one weakness of China. Don't ever forget that. China would be crippled without crude oil supply from the rest of the world.
Yep.
Yeah. Jeff, hey, can you answer this question that's up on the screen from Conservative Cowboy? It says, watch the movie Wag the Dog. You will see what's happening in Ukraine. What's your thoughts, Jeff?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. And, when Trump comes out and, he's talking about this central casting, right? Did you guys see the picture of Jim Carrey and then and then Ozzy Osbourne's daughter. I just have a feeling they're putting that in our face right now.
It's ridiculous how obvious it is. It is.
For the disclosure portion of when this rolls out, because our government, whether it's the military or what, they, like John was saying earlier, DJT is going to owe the American people an explanation on why all this was being done. And I think that this is part of it, because you're going, that 17th letter in the alphabet talks about the 10 days of darkness and all this other stuff. People, I find more and more and more people now that can buy what I'm selling.
Yeah.
With all, if you would roll the clock back 4 years ago when they were saying, damn, this dude is batshit nuts. Even my siblings now were like, oh, maybe you're on to something. Except for my younger sister, she'll no matter what, she'll always say I'm batshit crazy. But
well, you can be that and be it in a good way. Real quick, keep that thought. I just want to say thank you to D. Crump, who donated $10 to us. And he said, great discussions and a great show tonight. I'm so happy you all are back again together. Liberty Warrior Nation is my favorite show to watch. It's been for me for years now. Just keeps getting better. And that's a big compliment to everybody. So give yourselves a little hand there. Good job, boys. Yeah. So go ahead, Jeff, keep it up. So when you talk about this, it does look crazy because Jim Carrey doesn't look the same at all. And they're saying that it was his makeup artist, Alexis Stone, Mimi says that maybe playing him, but they're doing it on purpose to see if people will notice how different these people look. And then Kelly Osbourne, they're saying with her, it's because she's mourning, but nobody looks like that fast.
You don't. No, I don't buy that. And what was that stuff, that chrome stuff that they said they were drinking to make themselves look so young? Is that going to come into play? I mean, it's I don't know. I think this year I think the fire hose is finally being cracked. But I think after July 4th, that's when the real fun begins.
Well,
when you said adrenochrome, they can, all I can tell you is it's real. You can manufacture it, but you got to have certain ingredients, and those ingredients are not easily captured, so that's just a fact. But adrenochrome, and what it does to the human, it does slow down the aging process. And guess who did some of the work and research on adrenochrome? DARPA. Our old buddy DARPA.
Oh, Jesus. Mary Mother.
Well, yeah, because listen, what if you had to have the strongest soldiers, you had to have them ready to go, and you had to keep them young and youthful and muscular. And you found it, so their experimentation was just that. It's not like they were producing it or manufacturing it. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that they looked at when you capture adrenaline from a scared human being, that then you can process and make adrenochrome. Now, how would Hollywood be able to get that? What mad scientists would be working with Hollywood to feed the stars and keep them youthful? I don't know. But the one thing I do know, adrenochrome is real.
Well, I mean, that's a lot more palatable for people to say, okay, they started this way to improve soldiers versus to in their lives or whatever, versus Hollywood using it for the way they're using it. But that's pretty interesting, and I bet there's a lot of people that did not know that at all. So
Well,
here's
that was one of the fluke dives that we did, and if you actually, Tammy, the fact of the matter is I think what drove their research and they're looking at it and doing the test with it was Hollywood. I think that I don't know where and that's one of the things they don't talk about in the documents that they present. They're just talking about a rapid pump and dump of adrenaline, and then being able to process it to where it could be given by transfusion to a soldier.
Well, I've only one time in my life have I ever been so scared that I was frozen. You know that saying, frozen in fear, that you cannot move and you just feel that adrenaline run through your body and it's hot, your whole body from head to toe, and you can't move. It's the weirdest feeling. And I'm thank to God that I only felt it one time in my life, but it's a horrible, horrible feeling. It's insane.
This whole segment of this conversation sounds like the movie script for Captain America: The First Avenger.
Here we go. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's answer this question if you can, Jeff. As a conservative cowboy asked, did you hear this? 48 top Iran regime leaders are dead. We did talk about that. Reports of a new leader is a lie. Treasury Secretary said Iran regime are preparing to leave. They are tracking money being transferred out.
Well, yeah, I think with Lutnick, you're going to have somebody aligned with our Treasury Department to move everything off this petro and move it over to commodity, to gold and silver, and whether people. They're so divided on this whole Nasara thing. You can kind of see it playing out. I mean, our Treasury, they're removing pennies from the market. You go to grocery stores now, and one of our big grocery stores in the area, they have days where you turn in your pennies, you turn in $100 worth of pennies, they give you a $200 gift card. So, they want to try to get all this out of circulation, and all you have to do is look at your currency, and there hasn't been too much currency being printed.
No,
because there's no new bills.
If conservative cowboy is talking about the clerics and the what's the name of the Republican Guard or whatever, the
IRGC.
The IRGC. If they're trying to transfer and move money so they can escape Iran, well, that QFS has got them by the ass. You can't move money on the planet Earth that they can't track. Why do you think all this shit with these cartels is coming unhinged? They know where every single dollar goes when it's moved and transferred. Now, you can have a pallet of cash, but when you put it into the system, guess what? It's captured by QFS. And if you do nefarious shit with it, like try to flood, okay, we'll money launder it through cryptocurrency. Guess what? It don't matter. The minute it moves into the system, it's on QFS, and there's not a currency on the planet that is not tracked where it ends up, the end user. What did he do with it? Okay, there. And so now when you think about indictments coming down the pike for people that we named earlier, and if that's true, and if, because remember, you got to go back to that time frame, because I think that the QFS was running alongside and mirroring SWIFT.
Yes.
So Mr. Obama could have thought, well, I'm transferring through SWIFT. There's no way to track it. And here's the thing. flying it on an airplane. Well, you don't put nothing on a military airplane that ain't tagged and traced. You know what I mean?
Right.
So money is the root. The love of money is the root of all evil, and that's what's going to bring all these son of a guns down. So trying to get out of Iran by transferring money into a SWIFT bank account, I'm sorry, it's not going to work for you.
Well,
you better have some gold.
There was about 4 or 5 years ago, where I believe it was on this program where I had told people that I had went in to the bank to wire money to one of our vendors, and they didn't transfer it by SWIFT because of the dollar amount. And the banker come out and straight out told me SWIFT is going to be done. And DMarsh, one of my buddies that worked DMarsh in Treasury, said that, basically no one in the banking system in the U.S. is using SWIFT anymore. No. So, I see Travis's comment about this whole digital currency, right? We've been on a digital currency for, God, I don't know how long. Every time you swipe a credit card, it's a digital currency.
True.
So they can track and trace stuff that way. So, I'm not really too worried about, the digital currency. What I think it'll do for a lot of stuff is, stop the money laundering. And
yes,
and I believe too, there will be a time in the US when, like Social Security, you get that debit card from Social Security that they load your money onto it. I think that's how possibly we will get dividends from tariffs. That's going to be
yes.
rolled out and not necessarily called NASARA.
Yeah.
We ruined that name. Real quick, John, keep that thought. But LW said, can John answer my comment? It says, sure you can, John. Basically storing it. He goes, you just have to store it where the sun don't shine. They won't check it there, or will they? I yield to John.
Well, that's called a prison wallet.
Yeah. Well, listen, there's a reality.
Yeah.
Money is just a mechanism of exchange.
Yeah.
So if they go to, and I want to get Mr. Travis so he can understand. If you bank in the United States of America and you have a debit card, and you can remember when you had an old plastic debit card with the little raised numbers and all that, but the minute you got the debit card with a chip, now understand you got one now, you're using it. All right, that chip is your digital wallet. You have a digital wallet with that bank. So you're using digital assets that are not, that bank ain't got the money that we spend every single day. Don't ever fool yourself. If you think so, go in there. I tell you what, I got held up. I wanted $10,000 in cash. And I go into the bank to get $10,000 in cash. And the little gal said, Mr. Estabrooks, do you think you could come back in 2 hours because we're waiting on a truck? I said, you ain't got $10,000 in that freaking vault? She goes, no, sir, we're waiting on the truck. When the Brinks truck drives up, we'll be able to cash it. I said, you son of a bitch.
Wow.
Yeah, because they have to order it from your closest Federal Reserve.
Yeah, we ship all that money across the world all the time, millions and billions and trillions, but they can't. That's ridiculous.
It's all digital. There ain't no money. Listen,
there's no money nowhere.
That's what's going to hang Barack's ass, because he loaded pallets of money and sent to Iran. Cash. Well, guess what's also true about cash? Every serial number that's they're cooked, man. They're cooked. And then if you try to now, listen, everything we're seeing about how rapidly you're seeing these cartels, man, you know why? Because their money supply is going tits up. They're having to battle and fight. There's no more. How are you going to launder money inside the QFS? They're finding out when they wiped out all of their Bitcoin and they just took them off of every coin exchange on the planet. They seized the assets of the cartel. How did they know? Well, that's cartel money. How did they know? QFS. They brought the money into a bank, put the money in the system, and then said, now I want to buy some cryptocurrency, because you still got to have money to buy crypto. So they would exchange it and they get the Bitcoins. The minute they made that transfer, it was captured. And so are you. Anything you do. Listen, I deal with the IRS all the time because I'm not a guy that likes them, and I've had at one time they seized every single thing I owned.
Oh,
they took
my
everything.
God.
Well, yeah, I was young. I was able to say to myself, I'll never let this happen again. But I was fighting a good fight, you know. I was protesting, and I had joined an organization that was against taxation and laid out a very valid case, but didn't bother the IRS at all because they just seized all my assets, went into my bank, took my savings account, checking account, and then they seized my property. Every vehicle I had, the land that I had, they just took it. Okay, so then I learned my lesson and I got square with them, and that's all good. But I still now, because I protested the constitutionality of a direct tax on my income. That income, listen, this is the definition. Income is profit or gain from money. It was never supposed to be about labor. When I worked for an hour and I worked for $40 an hour, that's an equal exchange of my time for money. There's no profit or gain in that. So that was my battle, and I fought it like that, and I lost. But that battle is still real. But the entire system under QFS is going to alleviate all the need for taxes, because every penny that's deposited in your bank account from wherever it comes from, once it's in that bank account, you got access to it and you can do what you want with it, but don't do anything criminal because they're going to catch your tail. But if you want to use it and do it, but here's the thing, they won't need me to send in a 1090, you know, any form. I won't have to file any form at all. They
Right.
already have access to it just by simply pulling up my digital wallet. They can look at my digital wallet, and they can. That's why if you lie right now to the Internal Revenue Service, you're a fool. Especially if it's money that you deposited in a bank. You better not, because they'll get you for evasion.
So what's going to happen then if we all digital and stuff and they have control? I mean, they so far are corrupt and crooked, and it's not very soothing to think that they have control to be able to cut us off at any moment. We've talked about that before. So if they go digital, everything goes digital. We have to have people on the up and up, because whoever controls that on and off button has control over everything. And that's kind of a scary thought.
Well, that's right. That's why we're legislating right now against programmable digital money. We don't want that. We don't want anybody to be able to say, well, John, you had your limit of beef for the month. You can't have any more beef till next month. And wait a while. I want a beef steak right now. God dog it. It's my money. I want to buy a calf. You know, I don't. So that's the battle that we all need to get engaged with our congressmen and our senators, to make sure that they legislate, because just because they killed CBDC, Trump's installing stablecoin, whatever he calls it, I don't care. And I don't care the fact that it's gold backed. It can be a gold backed asset. I just don't want it to be programmable to where the government decides what I can and I can't do with my gold-backed currency. If I want to go buy a car, I'll buy a car. I'm not going to wait until they say, well, no, we're going to turn you off. You can't have any more gas. You've already used your allotment of gas for the month. Whoa, no. That's programmable digital currency. And there's ass hats inside the White House working with Trump right now that are going to push this programmable digital currency. So we now have about a 5-year window to where we better legislate not only in our states, but have our federal government legislate that we will not accept a programmable digital currency that the government has control over. And
Well, if we
Huh?
can't get our voting system straight, how the hell are we going to get something that intense straight? Right? Really? Jeff B., what do you have to say about all that?
Well, I think there's going to be a mixture of both, because if it's going to be 100% digital currency, then why did the U.S. Mint produce all that new currency that doesn't look like anything that we have now? So I think it's going to be a mixture of both, but some of your government payments, which I think is going to be dividends that Trump's talked about, which will be put on there because it's just less expensive for the government to do. So
yeah.
Well, and
there's a lot of great good things that can happen with all technology.
Right.
The fears I have with AI, they're real, and they're grounded in understanding that for every good aspect of any technology, all it takes is one megalomaniac son of a gun to destroy us all, huh? But then it's the same thing with digital currency. Digital currency, I have had a Coinbase account for a long, long time, and I transfer money to and from my bank with ease within a flash of a hitting a button. The money's from my Coinbase account into my bank account, and then I can spend it how I choose. But that's the deal. I still have a choice on how I spend it. Programmable money that some of these ass clowns are talking about would give the government access to say, and to change how we think, what we eat, how we drive, how we travel. Well, no. And this is not an overnight. I agree with Jeff. If they're not going to, because of the biblical nature of attempting to go cashless or to institute the mark of the beast. That's if digital currency is that, well, then I've been blowed up. But the bottom line for me is it's when they attempt, like China has, to use it as a social construct to enslave and control their people. And that's in place in China right now. And guess who the daddy of the monitoring system is? We had this conversation about this cat probably 3 or 4 shows ago. Peter Thiel. You better watch that son of a bitch. That man right there, whoa, he frightens me, and I don't get scared easy. But it's because of what he says and what he's doing. He's got 155,000 people that are going to form a whole tech community, guess where? In Iceland, so that they can keep their servers and their data centers cool while they surveil the entire planet.
Oh, pleasant. Jeff B.
I mean, it's real.
Come on.
And he rubs elbows with Trump.
Yeah, it's kind of scary. Jeff B., what do you think about that? That's insanity to me. And he is around Trump. That's the other troubling thing. But people say keep your enemies close, right?
That's what I was just going to say. You keep your enemies, you keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Trump has a very unique way of exposing people.
Yeah, he does.
I mean, he does. People think he's a wackadoodle,
on
some of the stuff, but I mean, people get exposed left and right.
Yeah, that's true. Well, before we head out for the night, is there anything else either one of you wanted to cover? We didn't cover Bill and Hillary's deposition that much, but I didn't get to read through them. They were just bits and pieces were coming out, but they've released the entire deposition of both of them. And what I did garner from it is Hillary did get angry. She hit the table. She yelled. Bill at one point was asked if he thought an intern is young, and he said yes. But the big thing that I've got a takeaway from it was he said Trump did nothing wrong as far as he knew and had nothing to do with Epstein or the girls or anything. And he actually exonerated him for it. So that was pretty interesting. Those are the highlights I came up with.
Well, the only thing I'll tell you is Bill Clinton's a lying bastard. Hey, and that's not me that says that. That's his impeachment. When he was impeached, it was because he lied under oath. He's a liar. So
Yes.
nothing that son of a bitch. And listen, Hillary, everybody can maintain plausible deniability, but the one thing when she says she doesn't know Epstein, she better go do a little bit deeper dive into the Epstein documents, because there are photos with her and Bill with Jeffrey. So did she openly lie to Congress saying she never met the guy? Bullshit. They're liars. And listen, they're set up. If you wanted to set them up, you get them in to come in and say, "Oh no, I've never been to the island." Well, wait a while, Bill. We got all the flight records. We know every boat that left from every island around there. I don't know. It wasn't shocking to me that they would be practiced and great liars and be able to go in and give a plausible deniability and testimony, because they've got great attorneys that coached them for 4 freaking months.
Mm-hmm. Jeff?
Yeah. I mean, I think this is all just a dog and pony show,
Yeah.
Basically to get them on the record and
Yep.
for exposure later on.
Yep.
Because, she still has to answer for Benghazi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
Hey.
Go ahead.
Think about this now. The one thing that they were both questioning about is the Clinton Foundation. Now, what did we just had a long conversation about QFS?
Yeah.
Don't think that they ain't tracked every stinking dollar, every nefarious thing that the Clinton Foundation funded for Epstein all around the world. And Epstein sent them and funneled money through the foundation as a money laundering scheme, just like he did with Chase Bank. So they're all hooked. They're cooked.
Well, let's answer this question from Cheryl from X. She said, any thought on the sleeper cells? And I'll go first. I think they're, yes, activated with stuff that's been happening. There is a terrorist threat that they think was a terrorist act that just happened today or yesterday. But Jeff and John, go ahead. Jeff first.
Yeah, the only thing I can really say, the Arabs, the radical fundamentalists, they play the long game. And all we have to do is remember that guy that came across the border, and the reporter asked him where he was from and who he was, and he said, "Don't worry about it. You'll find out soon enough." And I think that soon enough time is coming quicker than we think. That's why, you had Hegseth create those quick reaction forces, and DHS, they put a couple facilities up in Arizona, holding facilities. So
yeah,
I think it's you had the fatwa put out. People may think that's just a joke, but these guys take that stuff serious.
Yeah,
think about one of the things that I sent an email to the FBI years ago, and I had traveled to D.C. for a Glenn Beck rally, and there was, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of us that went. But from Louisiana to D.C., every time we stopped to tank up that Suburban, I noticed a very commonality that most of the service stations along that interstate were operated by not Americans. And then my question to them is if you are sitting on a couple thousand gallons of gasoline and you have the ability with just a simple cell phone to make a phone call and ignite them all across the United States of America, what would that look like for our infrastructure? Yep. And I was told that I was crazy. They said, "Man, you must be a real conspiracy nut. I said, no, I'm just thinking. I said,
Right.
it's a reality. I go in every gas station I go in, and I look, and okay, here's this guy. Well, he might be an Indian, and he might be a Sikh, but are there any of these guys that are not friendly to the United States of America? And how dangerous is that we have them sitting on our entire gas supply across the entire country? What would it do to the infrastructure?
Yeah.
You think about the simplicity of that.
Conservative
Keep your head
cowboy
on a swivel.
yeah, right. Conservative cowboy and everybody else in chat. The link I dropped is from what is it? Live Now Fox, and it is the complete Hillary and Bill depositions. You scroll down and it says watch Hillary's deposition on the Epstein probe, and then she's first, and then it's Bill's, and it gives you a timeline. So that was a really good article they put out. So to answer your question, that is the link for it. So hopefully, guys, you can pick it up and share it. All right. So with all that being said, Jeff, is there anything else you have to say or anything before we go to final thoughts?
Nope, I am good.
We did 2 hours of good content, I think, you guys,
Wow.
and the chat did fantastic. Time flew. It didn't feel like that long to me at all. I just love when we have these big, good conversations. It's wonderful and it's great to share, like I always say. But let's go ahead and go to final thought. We'll go to Jeff B first then.
Keep your head on a swivel. That's all I can say. I mean, it's this thing here, all the, when I sit at home and I put on an SDR and copying Morse code or listening to signals over in the Middle East, this joker's about ready to get beyond crazy.
Yeah, I believe you're right.
All
John?
right.
All right. Have a great night. All right.
Yep.
We'll see you
Thank
later, Jeff. Thank you.
Well, my final thought is stay connected to the great I am, the Father, because we're not meant to live in fear, and we should never. And the minute we feel ourselves being in a fearful state, pull back from it. Find your connection, find your safe space, and just have a prayer. Spend time with God on a one-to-one basis, because the reality of it is that God wins this battle. It's already foretold. This is something that we've all, if you read the good book and you stay grounded in the Word of God, trust that God wins this battle. And it's an epic battle. And when you look at Persia, and Iran, and you look at Gog and Magog, well, okay, is the stage being set? I pray not. But then what is to come afterward? Who will reign on this earth after that? And it's the King. So I'll leave y'all with that. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, John. And thank you, everybody in chat. It's awesome. It was an awesome show. And I agree with John. We need to remember we still have to live our lives, that we do go into prayer and we go to God when it gets to be too much and overwhelming. Because remember, God isn't the author of confusion. The enemy is. And taking a break isn't a bad thing. It's a wonderful thing. It regrounds you, and you still have to live your life. But I say, don't just sit on your hands. I've always said, find your path. No matter what it is, God will lead you, and do what you can do to make a difference, whether it's local in your community, whether it's doing your own show, whether it is doing writing, whether it's sharing in your church, sharing in your community, getting involved with voting and your party. And you can make a difference. Each and every one of us can make a difference. And guess what? You don't have to know much. You don't have to be good at it. You just go out there and trust God, because he's not going to lead you down the wrong path. And I'm going to end with that. Thanks all of you for the super chats and the donations tonight. Thank you again for the great communication and chat, the questions, the answers, and the participation. That's what makes this show a community. And we appreciate each and every one of you. So we will catch you guys on the next one. Take care. God bless, and have a wonderful night.